Hello there and welcome to bnettv.com. I'm Michelle Sklar. We're here at Mobile Internet World in Boston in the Heinz Convention Center, and I am joined by Emily Green, who is President and CEO of the Yankee Group, the organization who has put on this particular event. Thank you so much for joining us today,
My pleasure.
Emily.
Welcome to Boston.
Thank you so much. This is
By
my
the way,
first
the Red
time.
Sox won the World Series. I just have to say that.
I've heard that a few times,
Yeah.
and although I'm
Yeah.
not a big sports fan, I understand that's pretty important
And the
stuff around
Pats are
here.
undefeated. Yeah. Okay, I'm done now. All right,
Excellent. Okay, we
yeah,
got that
fine.
shout out in, so we're good to go. Well, why don't we talk a little bit about the Yankee Group, and this is the first Mobile Internet World Conference that the Yankee Group has hosted.
Right.
So let's kind of cut to that evolution, if you will.
Okay, so from the Red Sox.
Yes, from the Red Sox to the Yankee Group.
So the Yankee Group, we are the oldest technology firm out there, actually. We're almost 40 years old, but we are exclusively focused on the impact of connectivity on the network, the enterprise, and the consumer. So changes in connectivity technology are what really interest us and what animates the research that we do. So earlier this year, we have a conference series, and we said, what is the big thing happening in connectivity right now? And it's mobility. It really is. It's not that everybody needs to get a mobile phone. It's now that everybody has a mobile phone, what else could we be doing with it that we're not?
Right, exactly.
And once our phones are mobile, what else could be mobile? Our cameras, our briefcases, who knows? So what we decided to do was to try to convene the ecosystem around the mobile internet to say, beyond what it is today, what could it really be?
Fantastic. So let's talk briefly about the theme of this particular conference, which sort of stems from, I guess, breaking down the walled garden, if you will.
Right, yeah. What our focus is understanding the total ecosystem and the total potential. We've done some research work to measure what we think that potential might be at a very basic level, but beyond connecting and browsing the internet for the nearest Starbucks, there's so much more that we could be doing. And that's our focus, is to try to expose that, to talk about the issues and the obstacles on the path to making that happen.
Wonderful. Now, there is an incredible lineup of speakers that that are present at this particular conference, some really interesting sessions. In fact, it amazes me how much information has really been able to be contained within the 3 days.
Jammed in 3 days. Yeah, well, we're good at that.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
If you're going to go to a conference, you really need to get in all that information. But at the same time, what are you feeling are some of the key topics that are going to be discussed?
Well, the one that I just stepped away from was the Yahoo keynote, and the thing that I loved most about that presentation was that their argument is that you have to step away from the application before it gets to the mobile device and think with a very clean slate about how, for instance, search should work on a mobile device, and rethink the entire experience. And so I loved that. I think tomorrow, other than my own stunning, I'm sure, keynote, and I'm almost done writing it, we have Tim Berners-Lee early tomorrow, right before lunch, I think, and he's going to talk about openness. And coming back to the theme, I really personally believe the thing that's going to power the explosion of the mobile internet is opening those barriers and creating the open environment.
We were actually speaking with Steve Bratt a little earlier. Of course, he's the CEO of the W3 Consortium, and one of the things he talked about was stop looking at the mobile and the web as two separate entities, but really kind of looking at them in more of a holistic approach, if you will.
Yeah.
And maybe you can comment on that a little bit further.
Oh, I completely agree. I think mobility will be this century's electricity, in that it will quickly become an indispensable aspect of everything that we do, rather than thinking of my mobile phone. I really want us to think about how mobility gets added into everything that we do in the same way that electricity got added into everything we did in the 20th century.
Absolutely. Throughout the day so far, we've had an opportunity to start to learn from some of the different speakers what they're hoping to impact people with. And, we've been talking about, I guess, a shift in the paradigm even with how advertising and marketing takes place to develop a consumer brand. The larger companies, automotive, for example, it's not just about television and radio and billboard. It's now a convergence of these mediums and a way to look at engaging the consumer and creating a consumer brand community, if you will. Maybe you'd like to comment on that a little bit.
Yeah, a good friend of mine is the chief media officer for an ad agency, and his outlook is that brands need to think about creating brand services, not brand exposures. So as consumers interact with more and more devices that can be branded, they're not looking for ads, they're looking for an experience that has been branded. And so how does a brand transform itself from someone who says, I have an ad to push at you, into what's an experience that I can offer on this phone, for instance, or on this camera that could be branded and create a value moment with the consumer that also creates a monetization model for the network experience.
Absolutely. Now, just in sort of closing off here, throughout the conference as well, you've broken things into various tracks, if you will, into different components. From what I'm gathering, how you want people to approach this overall question, if you will, and maybe you can just touch on a little bit what some of those tracks are going to include.
Well, you're testing my recollection of our agenda, and it would have been good if I'd refreshed my memory before we had this chat. But as I recall, the tracks include things like mobility in the enterprise, which is a huge opportunity. I mean, right now we're thinking about mobility in an enterprise environment as BlackBerries, and that's well short of what we could be doing, empowering workers who are away from their desk to do their jobs almost as effectively away from their desk as they can when they're at their desk. And so there's a whole track of activities, I think tomorrow and Thursday, looking at how do we create a strategic or holistic enterprise mobility strategy. There is a track, I think, on security, because there are enormous aspects. As the network gets larger and more porous, because the network is mobile and wireless and in the air, what are the security issues associated with that, and are they surmountable?
Right.
And with what kinds of technology? And then the consumer issue. The topic on everybody's minds is mobile advertising and mobile marketing, but beyond that, there's mobile transactions. How do I use my phone to interact with a service experience in the same way that we figured out that the computer was relevant to a consumer service experience as well?
Right, absolutely. My last question for you, Emily, there are some fantastic tech conferences that are occurring this year. What do you feel?
I don't know about any of them.
You don't know, but it's
I only know about this. No, go ahead. Sorry.
Fair enough. Well,
Finish your question.
That's probably a good attitude to have, for sure, because my question for you is, what do you feel that the Yankee Group, through Mobile Internet World, what do you feel that you're going to bring to the information and education forum, if you will, as far as what's having you stand out with your conference?
Well, it's a good question, and certainly we have a limited resource in any company, and you have to think carefully before you start something new. And there are a lot of shows out there, and we don't want to just put something out there that is the same as another event or isn't going to add anything that's unique. We did not see in the landscape of technology conferences and exhibits any opportunity for the entire ecosystem from soup to nuts, not just the carriers and the handset manufacturers and that world, but everything beyond that, the applications and the services and all the way to the consumer and enterprise experiences. We didn't see any program that convened that group. And the issues in the marketplace are complex, and I don't think they can be isolated to small teams. So we thought creating something that was focused around the whole world was the right approach.
Absolutely. Well, Emily, thank you so much for joining us. We're certainly looking forward to a fantastic show, and we look forward to the opportunity we can speak with you again, hopefully before not too long, and get a sense of how you felt everything went at the show.
Oh, I'd be delighted.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. We've been here speaking with Emily Green, who's the CEO and president of the Yankee Group. They put on Mobile Internet World here in Boston at the Heinz Convention Center, and I'm Michelle Sklar for BNetTV.com.